There's been a huge explosion in Lebanon's capital, Beirut. At least 10 people are known to have been killed. That death toll, though, is going to increase in the coming hours and days. Lebanese security officials say that blast was triggered by explosive material that was stored in a warehouse in the port area, which is at the heart of the city. The president has called an emergency meeting. The prime minister has called a national day of mourning for Wednesday. The head of the Lebanese Red Cross says that hundreds of people have been taken to hospital with blast injuries. Many are still trapped in their homes. The initial blast wave traveled kilometers away from the actual site of the blast, and homes, buildings were damaged, windows were blown out. People suffered cuts, bruises, glass injuries. The cause at this stage unclear, although, as we were saying just a few moments ago, Israel was quick to issue a statement denying any involvement. Al Jazeera saying outside the port in Beirut, where that explosion happened, and you've been witnessing, Zaina, since that explosion, some pretty chaotic scenes there.
Well, yes, Adrian, chaotic scenes outside Beirut port as ambulances arrive to evacuate the dead and the wounded. But we have since moved to one of the hospitals in the center of Beirut, the American University Hospital, where most of the injured have been taken. There are also requests on social media for people to donate blood, because really dozens and dozens of people were injured in this massive blast that shook the Lebanese capital. You mentioned explosive material at one of the warehouses. That is what the head of one of Lebanon's security agencies, Major General Abbas Ibrahim, announced approximately an hour ago. And now we are hearing from Lebanon's Interior Minister, Mohammed Fahmy. What he is saying is that highly explosive ammonium nitrate was stored in the port. And he says that the Lebanese people should ask customs about why it was there. So officials trying to really distance themselves on what this highly explosive material was doing at Beirut port that caused this massive blast that has taken the lives of at least 10 people. That is what we understand from Lebanese security sources, but dozens and dozens of people have been injured. Some hospitals have started to turn away patients. The healthcare system in Lebanon is under a lot of pressure, not just because of an economic crisis, but because of an upsurge in the number of coronavirus cases. This is a government which is cash-strapped. This is a state which is close to bankruptcy. And this is a state that owes billions of dollars to Lebanon's private hospitals. One of those private hospitals is this one, AUH. But what we understand is that they are receiving the injured and treating those who are injured. But there are calls now for people to donate blood, all types of blood, in order to help those who were hurt. Many of them in their injuries as a result of falling glass. And as you can see, family members outside the hospital waiting for news about their loved ones. There was panic when, just moments after that massive explosion, I was not very far from AUH, this hospital, when it happened. And we are a few kilometers from Beirut port. And I felt the scale and the magnitude of this blast, which shook the ground, pushed us to the ground, and caused a lot of panic among residents who had no idea what had just happened. And the smoke, the color of the smoke, what I saw was orange. So maybe it makes, I'm not an expert, but now that the Lebanese Interior Minister is saying that this highly explosive ammonium nitrate was stored at Beirut port. So many questions are now going to be answered. What was this material doing at Beirut port? Why was it there? Who put it there? And But right now, the concern of many Lebanese, as you can see, is the condition of their loved ones who are now inside the emergency room. This is a city on edge, a country on edge, people on their nerves, really concerned and worried about what tomorrow will bring. Their livelihoods have been shattered by this explosion. Many shops have been damaged, goods on the floor for so many people. This is all that they had left in a country where there's a deep economic recession, in a country where businesses have been closing, people have been losing their jobs, and a healthcare system that is collapsing. This is one of the biggest hospitals in Lebanon. And a few weeks ago, they laid off 850 nurses and administrators because they could not pay their salaries, because the government owes private hospitals billions of dollars. Some hospitals have started to turn away patients because they don't have the supplies needed to help them. So now the priority now is to help and treat those who were injured in this blast. And I can tell you, it's been 3 hours now since the explosion. I've seen ambulances come and go non-stop to the explosion site and taking the injured to hospitals across the capital.
All right, Zaina, many thanks. Al Jazeera's Zaina Hodder reporting live there from Beirut. Let's speak to Mohammed Khalifa, who was formerly Lebanon's health minister. He joins us now on the line from Beirut. Good to have you with us, sir. We saw there anxious relatives waiting outside the hospital for news of their nearest who've been injured in this blast. Hundreds of people injured today, and all of this is happening in the midst of a pandemic. Can the city's health services cope?
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, sir. Can Lebanon's health services cope?
Well, let me see. I've been listening. Actually, myself and my family narrowly escaped death. I am living next to university, and still I am a professor of surgery. And I was leading I left because of dehydration. We were treating hundreds of casualties along with my team, because still I am operating as a professor of surgery in the university. I think it is a disaster. I never seen something like that except when I was trained during the rough time of the Lebanese civil war. People there were rushing in hundreds, no place to accommodate. Our team is one of the biggest teams around the world, like 100 physicians and nurses. Barely we could absorb the shock. We managed to do in several waves, and really we have mortalities. We managed to save a lot of people, but things beyond any imagination. Injuries all over. Certain people, they have 7 or 8 injuries in different places. You can see enucleated eyes. You can see teared bodies. On top, we have to mix with everybody in the era of COVID, where you cannot do protection because you are between to get COVID or to save somebody else's life. I was sitting at my home. I told my family, shouted, take care, there is an earthquake. And immediately in my favorite place, everything collapsed, and narrowly I escaped death. I left family and jumped to the hospital to save lives. We are in a very bad situation economically, medical supplies, shortage of everything. We managed to cope, but the devastation is beyond any description.
And tell us about the nature of the injuries you were seeing today.
People, they were sitting at homes. They're at home. Some, they have pressure injuries. They were traveling in their cars. Their heads, maybe they hit the wheel steer or they hit somewhere. People from pressure injuries, because you can see their faces are swollen. Others, direct injuries due to glass injuries, fragments. People, Beirut is a very crowded city. If you are passing on a street and immediately tons of glasses collapses and hit you on the street from 20, 30 meter height, there are different sorts of impact injuries, high velocity, medium velocity, pressure injuries, acceleration injuries, deceleration injuries, what we describe it in medical terms. Yes, it is very bad. Wasn't unexpected. Everybody, I told, we saw there is an earthquake, and after like 20 seconds, we had the major explosion, and everybody, he felt that this was a special incident at his home. For example, I have some people, when they come with me from the hospital, they told me, oh, we escaped the explosion. I told them, what is the explosion, after they came to pick me up? They told me it's next door, downstairs. And imagine, it is in the port, and my house is 500 meters far from there. Everybody was under the impression that the explosion went on in his own home.
Given the stress that the healthcare system is under right now in Lebanon, can it cope with this? Will it be overwhelmed with the sheer number of injuries and casualties we've seen today?
Yes, I'm not afraid. The people who came in, they received excellent treatment. I'm afraid that in certain buildings, if some people, they were living alone, they have no families or no relatives to check upon them, I am afraid to miss those patients and to miss their opportunity of the treatment. Yes, we saved several people. They were about in the verge of cardiac arrest. Some people, 2 or 3, they came dead on arrival. Yes, we are coping. We use to such injuries. You know, Lebanon passed through a lot. We have good expertise, but definitely resources, the epidemic, adding the financial situation, adding the status of depression among the people. The mood is very depressive to start with. Without this, the mood is very low. People are not certain. Economically, they are depleted. They are living in poverty. I don't know what's happening for a country like Lebanon, a small country in Beirut, and as if you are witnessing what we call it slow death.
Yeah.
Before this explosion. People, they were going on from bad to worse.
Everyone we've spoken to today has said, I've never felt anything like this, and I've experienced a lot of explosions in my life, as everyone in Beirut has. This will have traumatized a lot of people, won't it? I mean, it will have brought back a lot of bad memories for a lot of people there. Do you think that you'll be dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder after something like this today?
It's very simple. If you have your own phone, just I send you that time I'm talking to you. If it wasn't a matter of seconds, I could have been torn apart. If you see, when I came from the university, I've been operating all the day. I have a favorite place to sit. Usually, they bring me some water to hydrate and so on. And then my wife called me, no, today you have to come here. Since we married 20 years ago, never, she said like that. I stood up, and then I told, take care, the building is going to collapse, there's an earthquake. And in 2 seconds, like a 200 piece of a glass fall apart where I was sitting, it hit me tangentially. Myself, if you called me, with a matter of seconds, my phone couldn't answer you because I was dead. So if you ask me about the general situation, I'm telling you about myself. If you ask me why, I will tell you, look, I invested throughout my life. I'm a professor of surgery. I'm the first one who did liver transplantation in the Middle East. I am kaza kaza. Immediately, I could have died. And I don't want to hear an excuse, with all my due respect, my friend, the Minister of Interior, that such material was imported, was deposited next to the pillows of our citizens. We know what is nitrate, whether it's being used or whatever it is. This is not the right place to store it. And this shouldn't be proud. Somebody should be ashamed of saying this to the public, that we are depositing whatever it is, even for manufacturing, even for farming, This is a material cannot be deposited in the most crowded area in the Middle East. I don't know what it is. I'm not talking politics. I'm not blaming everybody and anybody wants to blame me. But as simple as that.
It's really good to talk to you, sir. Many thanks indeed for being with us.
I'm sure there is a say, if somebody is idiot, it's better to shut down rather than talk and take any doubt.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us, sir. That's Mohammed Khalifa, formerly Lebanon's health minister. Let's go back to Al Jazeera's Zaina Hodder then, who's at one of Beirut's hospitals. Lebanon, of course, not only dealing with an economic crisis, Zaina, and the events of today, and this is happening in the middle of a pandemic, of course.
Yes, a rise in coronavirus cases really has strained the healthcare system in the country. We are outside one of the main hospitals in Beirut, the American University Hospital. Many injured have been taken here. They're inside the emergency ward. Their families are desperately awaiting news about their conditions. What we understand is that there are a number of people who are in critical condition. A lot of people were injured by this explosion. The health minister saying in their hundreds. It wasn't just people who were close to the site of the explosion at Beirut port who were either killed or injured. I must say that Lebanese security sources say at least 10 have so far been killed. But people kilometers and kilometers away were hurt by shattered glass. We're getting some reports that people were on their balconies and the balcony collapsed. There's glass across the city, damage across the city. Destruction that people really have never seen before. And this is a country that is not immune to political violence and assassinations and bombings. They've seen it happen over the years. This is also a country that witnessed a 15-year civil war that ended in 1990. But the sheer force of this explosion, this massive blast, was felt kilometers and kilometers away. It pushed people to the ground. There was a lot of panic. So we are also getting reports that the Red Cross is appealing for blood donations. They're asking whoever is able to come to hospitals to donate blood because they're in desperate need of blood. A lot of the cases, people suffering from cuts, from shattered glass. And we talked about a healthcare system that is close to collapse. This is a private hospital, and the Lebanese government owes this hospital billions of dollars, and private hospitals have been threatened with closure in recent weeks because they do not have enough money to be able to treat everybody. And a lot of people who have lost their jobs over the years have lost their insurance as well. As you can see how tense the situation is, it's not clear.